too late to go to the pub.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Come on.
How are you, mate?
Well, here we are.
Here we are indeed. Wow.
Who thought we'd end up in this strange predicament?
Who would have thunk it?
This is a great day and a great time in the life of, Australian music and the life of Jimmy Barnes. Mate, congratulations on all the success of the book and the tour and everything. I mean, you must be on cloud nine.
It's it's exciting. It's sort of tense at the same time. It's a bit strange bearing your soul in public, but I've been doing it for 40 years.
So yeah, but you've had all the success. I mean, if you could have dreamed of that, you wouldn't have realised the success. And now you've got to better that, right? You've got another book coming out, Working Class Man, and the tour and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is sort of the book that people sort of expected the first time round. I was when I started writing the first one, I realised I got to I had a whole book, and I looked at it, and I'm only 5 years old, So
and we're already crying. We're already crying.
So I thought I better do 2 books. So this is probably the book that a lot of people.
This is
expected.
the sex, drugs, and rock and roll book, right?
Amongst other things, Richard. We could do without the rock and roll.
Well, the first book was so emotional. I mean, you're such a great writer. I know it's an amazing story, but your talent as a writer is incredible.
Well, it's I've been telling stories all my life, and I got caught in a few of them as well. But basically, that's what singers do. You tell stories. But I really enjoyed the process of writing because for, like I said, 45 years I've been out there screaming at people, and to actually sit down and look in and look, and a bit of introspection, it was good, So I really enjoyed the process. Yeah.
We should introduce ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Wilkins here, humble broadcaster in Australia. James Barnes, Australia's
author.
Favourite.
Did you say wanker?
I would never say that. Australia's favourite son.
Yes.
Even though you weren't even born here. How did that happen?
I know.
Well, you have to buy the first book to understand.
If you buy the first book, I'll tell you where I was born, and then we'll get to that later on the show.
Yeah, but listen, it's great to be here. This is your first ever Facebook Live.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's really nice to do it. I'm in the room here with a bunch of family and friends, and so I know everybody in the room, so I can't lie too much about the book. But
both of them.
Both of them, they're both out there, and so it's really. I
got to laugh out if you do all of this.
You're good at this.
Hey, can I make a request?
You can.
Because I know it's early in the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. But my favourite Cold Chisel song ever. Probably my favourite, don't tell Neil Finn I said that, my favourite Australasian song.
That's a pretty big call, isn't it? Oh.
Well, we've got Ben and Mahalia and Clayton here.
If you say take the weather with you, I'm not going to do
If I said flame trees,
I could do that for you. I could definitely do that for you.
Here we go. Come on.
Kids are driving Saturday afternoon, just pass me by, and I'm just savoring familiar sights. We shared some history, this town and I. And I can't stop that long forgot feeling of her. It's time to book a room and stay the night. And number one is to find some friends to say you're doing well. Boys look just the same. And number 2 is a happy hour at one of 2 hotels. sentimental bullshit anyway. It takes more than just a memory to make me cry. And I'm happy just to sit here around this table with our friends and see which one of us can tell the biggest lies. And if a girl, she's falling in love, and then where the piano stands, with a young local factory out of worker, and you know they're just holding hands. And I'm wondering if Bill girl, if Bill stay. Do you remember nothing stopped us on the field? And all the flame trees blind the weary driver. Oh, and there's nothing else can say goodbye to this town. And there's no chance, there's no pain. Everything within its place just makes it harder to believe that she won't be around. And all the flame trees wind the weary driver. And there's nothing else to say about to this town. And there's no shame, there's no pain. Everything within its place just makes it harder to believe that she won't be around. Yeah. Hi, Richard. What's going on?
Oh, man. So, congratulations, brother. That was magnificent. So, when you sing that song, do you realize that you're touching the heart and speaking to a whole generation?
You know, I was lucky to be the singer with Cold Chisel because I got to sing, you know, Don and Steve's songs.
Well, they were lucky to have you too.
Well, you know, I tell them that, but they don't believe me.
I think they
But that song, you know, it takes a different meaning every time I sing it. You know, I talked about it in the Working Class Boy tour where, you know, I go out and for a while, every time I sang that song, it reminded me of Adelaide. And when I left Adelaide, I sort of fled Adelaide actually, and I thought I would never, you know, go back to it. And it was when Cold Chisel went back there, it was lots of stuff that was painful to think about. And so when I sing this song and I think about going back to Adelaide, you know, sometimes it gets a bit much. And especially in light of, you know, losing Steve, you know, a few years back, it's really difficult to sing sometimes. But, you know, it's good because it brings on a different meaning every now and then.
It's a magnificent song. The key change. Can you remember? I mean, what is that?
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
What is that?
That was one of my ideas.
From what? From what to what? Just for the muso.
It's a semitone.
That's a semitone.
Yeah, but from which chord?
From B to C.
That's that old chestnut, number 27.
I'm glad I asked that. Hey, this book starts off with you fleeing Adelaide, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, the last book, like it finished in the back of the truck, heading over the hills of Adelaide. This book picks up basically where it left off, and sort of tracks, you know, Cold Chisel sort of finding its feet as a band, and then taking on Australia, and finally imploding. You know, there was sort of the five of us against the world for a while there. You know, we're sort of traveling around in the back of a station wagon, sort of, you know, terrorizing every Australian town we could get to. And then slowly, eventually the band sort of, got a record deal, and we had some success. And by that point, the band had been together for 10 years, and we started out, we were kids. I was, just turned 17, 16 and a half, 17 when I joined the band. So after 10 years, it was time to sort of move on and go solo and learn some stuff, from other musicians and other friends. And that's where the book starts. By that point, it was a lot of it was, just running on sort of adrenaline, speed, booze, and just basically going out and having a good time every night of the week.
The band saved your life and nearly ended
The band
it.
saved my life and nearly killed me.
Hey, listen,
and most nights.
Do you want to? I think we're going to read some stuff now.
Yeah, all right, I'll read you some if I can.
Jimmy Barnes, ladies and gentlemen, on the whole
Let me just
Facebook.
grab my stand here.
Oh, here we go.
That's very technical, I am.
That's what the book looks like. I feel like Delvin Delaney back in. Actually, I don't feel like Delvin Delaney.
you don't. Hey, wait a sec, don't throw it at me. Yeah.
There you go.
You're going to chuck it at me then and take off. So, I haven't read any of this in public before. Some of this, obviously, even though I wrote it and I put out there, I was trying to sort of forget about it. But there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm glad I went back and I looked at, because this is the sort of these are the things, the events and the stories that shaped my life, basically. I was asked to read the dedication. And I don't know why, I just, because this was a bit personal, was actually, I could have said that to my family and kids at home, but the dedication goes, "For my Jane, I love you, I have loved you, and I will always love you. For my kids, for my children, your father's made a lot of mistakes, but when I look at you, I know that I've done something right. For my grandkids, and there's a few in the room tonight, this is a story from the dark past. Now that you're here, everything is all right." And I had to include, for Oliver and Snoop, you've lived with me through this, but even through the thick of it, you never judged me. You just wagged your tails whenever you saw me. So I love you all. You got to love your dogs. They never judge you. No, that's my page. Hang on. All right. The preface. It's hard to believe that this is book 2 of my memoirs. Who would have thought that I'd remember any of my life, especially considering how much time and money I spent trying to forget it all. But I do. I remember most of it. Some of it's not pretty, and some of it is just painful to relive. But I've done my best to write it down for you to read and for me to make sense of. In the first book, I faced the damage that a broken home and a broken heart can bring. In this book, I face the impact that a childhood like mine, can have on a man. Don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming anyone for this. We all do the best we can with what we have, but here the blame rests squarely on my shoulders. The book picks up where the last one left off, in the back of the truck with my newfound family, Cold Chisel, as I ran from my past. I've retraced the rampage through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and into the new millennium. I've had incredible highs in my life, but there were despicable lows too. My childhood has affected everyone I've come in touch with, including my wife, my children, my friends, and the people that listen to our music. And in the end, I had to ask for help. I used to think that if someone asked for help, they were weak. But the toughest thing I ever did was when I reached out and asked for help. That's when I started to heal, and it took courage. I will no doubt make a lot more mistakes in my life, but not like the ones I made before. We all make mistakes. We all have problems. It's how we tackle those mistakes and problems that defines us. Good luck, you're not alone. The second book covers a lot of time, from 17 up until now. I've written about what I felt was the most important to me. There are a lot of people whose paths I've crossed mine along the way. I couldn't write about you all, but you've all helped me in one way or another, so I thank you, and I hope that knowing you hasn't held you back. It could have. There are a few of you out there I wish I'd never met, but I try to be philosophical. I've drank, smoked, and snorted my way through a lot of this life, and asked you to cut me some slack. I've tried to remember what happens, but of course some of it's a bit hazy and blurry. I've also tried to bear it all, the truth, warts and all. There are a few things I've kept close to my heart because it's no one's business but mine, and I hope you understand that. Excuse me, I'm not good at this. The prologue, this is Auckland, 2012. I'm alone in the darkness with my eyes squeezed shut and I scream. I'm not going to scream for you right now, but this normally it's a lot louder than this. Ah, you know? It comes straight from the darkest depths of my soul. My heart's pounding. I can feel the blood rushing through my veins. I move around the room slowly at first, but gathering speed. Every night's the same thing, alone. I wait and see if I'm going to make it. I wait until I'm told that I'm all right. I scream again. The sound is stronger, it's louder, and it's higher. Bang, I slam my fist into the wall, leaving the indentation in my knuckles. Bang, I hit it again. This time I nearly go through to the other side. Please help me. It spews out from deep inside of me, tearing at my throat on the way out of my body and into the room. A room that's dirty with graffiti scrawled across the walls. I lash out again at the filthy stained walls. Bang, bang. I hit him again and again. There's movement in the room. It's nearly time. I scream again. It's a call that only those who really know me understand it, even though they don't know why I go through it every night. I feel like I'm expelling poison from deep inside me, out of my system. I have to purge myself of all the toxic energy that's in my way, blocking me. I look at it in the mirror, and it's covered in condensation. The room feels like an oven. There's smoke coming under the door. I can see the shadows of the man I once was looking back at me, asking the same question every night. It asks the same question. Can I get through this? Will I survive tonight? Am I good enough? I take one last look at the face in the mirror. I'm not going down tonight, not without a fight anyway. I'm as ready as I'll ever be to do this. The door flies open and a blinding light fills the room. The muffled noise I've been hearing in the background has turned to a roar. It's the same thing every night, the same ritual every single night before I go on stage. Good evening, New Zealand. Bang, the band kicks in like a freight train, unstoppable, relentless, just like my life. It rolls down the track way too fast. The only thing holding it down at all is the speed at which I'm traveling. With every song, we take it up a notch in tempo, in volume, and intensity. My world is spinning out of control. But up here, I can still find myself. Whatever's happening for the rest of my day is gone. All that matters is me and them. The connection that's formed every night on stage between me and the audience. By the end of it, it sounds like a hurricane, tearing through each town that we visit. And then it grinds to a screaming halt. Jackie, my son, crashes down on as many drums as he can hit at once, and it's over. Thank you. I hold up a towel and a bottle of water and shake the sweat from my hair. The crowd is screaming for more, but I've given enough. 2 encores or 2 hours set, I walk off stage. It's the same way I walk off every night. The booze that I poured down my throat while I was on stage has taken me beyond reach. As we leave the venue, people thump the car, begging us to stop and talk. Girls in short skirts and high heels, too much makeup, lipstick freshly applied, smiling at me through the windows of the slow-moving car, looking for a good time. Guys with wild eyes and bulging pockets full of God knows what, wanting to party until the next show. They sway in front of the car. I've seen them all before, and I've probably taken them up in their office. I just can't remember. I'll stop before it gets too dark.
A snapshot into the life and times of Jay Barnes. I mean, amazing, because you do take us, you transport us to that time and place, and we'll ignore the slight on the Kiwis there, but and they lost the rugby last night. I can't believe. Congratulations to the Wallabies. But Jim, I mean, it's an incredible life. I mean, and we can only imagine what that would be like, but it is true for you, you know, whether during your solo career and with the Chisels, you know, backstage and going on stage and feeling the love in the room and the energy and all that. I mean, just give us another sense of that.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of stuff, you know, from my childhood that I didn't deal with when I was young. That I just sort of ran away and charged away from it as fast as I could. And when I couldn't run, I drank. And when the drinking didn't work, I snorted, took drugs. I did anything I could not to feel. Unfortunately for me too, eventually it kept coming back, and I'd feel that past just sort of, it was like something chasing behind me, and I couldn't run. I was running from it, and it just kept catching me, and I'd do more and more to try and drown it out. So I'm in the middle of all this. I'm out, living the life, of having a great life, playing with the best band in the country, touring, thousands of people every night coming to see us, flying around the country, and all I could do was just struggle to keep my head above water. So it was tough, and it was sort of, I didn't talk to people about it, because like I said before, I thought if you asked for help or if you showed you were weak, it was really you weren't a man, you know. So I just sort of kept my head down and just kept hammering myself until the point where I couldn't do it anymore, and it nearly killed me.
We're all the sum of where we've come from, but I mean, all those tough times obviously manifested themselves in those 2 or 3 hours when you were on stage. Was closer to 3 than 2. When you know it was an escape for you up there on stage. It was the time you felt away from, isolated from all the crap.
It's a strange thing, you know. It was like being in a hurricane, you know. I mean, I'd be up there and life is just spinning around me, and I'm out of control, and you know, barely being able to walk on stage, and people are just, don't know what to make of me. And I get on stage and I stumble about, and eventually it's like the eye of the storm passes over me, and and this happens most nights. It's not something, and you get there, and for a second, it just all goes quiet, you know, and it's like. And I can breathe, and that's the moments where I just felt I could just let my guard down and be myself. And when it was like that, when it gets to those moments in time, it was just about the people that were in the audience and myself, and it was easy. I could get up, I could sing, I could hit any note I wanted, I could scream louder than I could tear the paint off the walls. And then, I'd walk off stage and it's like it moved over and I was back into the wind and back into the hurricane. It was a weird thing. And every night I was sort of the only thing that sort of really, for a long time, that kept me alive was that, a couple hours on stage when it sort of, drifted over me. Eventually, I met Jane. And of course...
Pause for a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
And eventually, my family and my family sort of were the same. That was when I could find peace when I was with them. But because of the snowball and the compounding effects of all the stuff that I was doing, not only what happened to me as a child, but the mistakes I was making as an adult, it got harder and harder to see the joy even in my family. It got really difficult.
I remember Keith Richards saying once that those 2 hours on stage with the Rolling Stones playing it, in front of 100,000 people. It's the only time I get any peace and quiet. Yeah,
but the rest of the time you're actually, rock and roll's not that glamorous. It's it's a lot of hard work and you schlep around a lot. So you play and you look forward to those moments on stage. But I had moments of that with my family, with my friends. But those moments kept getting eaten away until I could hardly see them at all. And that wasn't because of them; it was because of me. And so it took a near life experience to actually get me to sort of just realize that you can't run from life. You got to turn, you got to face it, and at that point, that was it. It's come as close as you could to death, and when I did turn and face it, that's when things started to turn around, and it's been quite a few years, and I feel like I'm only just sort of finding my feet now and getting started, and I realize how lucky I am as well. And I have all the time along, how lucky I am to have this family, how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing, and how lucky I am to get up every night and, and share these emotions, with the people in the audience. It's a pretty special life.
You want to sing a song?
Sure, why not?
Let's.
The book's called Working Class Man, by the way. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Barnes, come on.
So, This song was written by Jonathan Cain, and it was written about my audience after we spoke. I thought that the version I did in 1985 or whatever it was sort of reflected how I was at the time, and it was a lot happier and a lot, This one, now the way I want to do it, it's just a lot more reflective and looking back on life. Working hard to make a living, bringing shelter from the rain. A father, son, left to carry on, blue denim in his veins. Oh, 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 he's a working class man. Yeah, he's a steel town disciple. He's a legend of his kind. running like a cyclone across the wild Australian sky. Oh, 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 he's a working class man. Oh, 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 he's a working class man. And he believes in God and Elvis. He gets out when he can. He did his time in Vietnam, still mad at Uncle Sam. He's just a simple man with a heart of gold in a complicated land. Oh, yes, he's a working class man. Well, he loves a little woman. Someday he'll make his wife, saving all the overtime for the one love of his life. He ain't worried about tomorrow, 'cause he just made up his mind. Life's too short for burning bridges. I take it one day at a time. Oh, 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 he's a working class man. Oh, yeah. Oh, oh, yes, he's a working class man. Oh, yeah. Yes, he is. Oh, yeah. Yes, he's a working class man. Oh, Lord. Oh, man, 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 man. I tell you, he's a working class man. Oh, yes, he is. Oh, Lord. Oh, yes, he is. I tell you, he's a working class man. Hey, hey, yeah. Oh, yes, he is. I tell you, he's a working class man. Thank you.
Oh, man. I love your passion, I love your talent, and I love the fact that you couldn't take your eyes off your granddaughter Rosetta there.
Well, she was going to run on and sing.
I think she was. Well, you
She's a
got
good
to
screamer.
You got to keep the family employed. You know what I mean? How cool is that? Seriously, having your son-in-law there, and you know,
had her here before.
and your beautiful Jane there holding Rosetta. I mean,
It's good, you know. They all want to jump on stage, even all the
Why
little
wouldn't
ones.
you?
They all get up anytime they get a chance. I don't know where they get it. They're born hams. Must be from their grandmother, I think.
mate, it's wonderful. The book is out tomorrow. Yeah, and by sheer coincidence, tickets
There's no
go,
coincidence around here.
tickets go on sale for the Stories and Songs tour.
Yeah.
I mean, this it's incredible. You know, after all your success and all your everything, you know, for this whole writing books and telling stories thing is a whole new side of your career, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, I guess people have heard me sing and scream and, you know, seen me on TV for so long. To sit down and talk about the things that drove, you know, me and almost drove me, you know, beyond, and the stories behind the songs, and you know, I've met a lot of great people along the way. You know, I've been so blessed, you know, like in the midst of all this chaos to sort of, you know, when I thought, you know, as a child, when I thought you know, that, you know, life couldn't work, it wasn't going to work, I met Reg Barnes, you know, when I, you know, I was a teenager, I was in gangs, I was fighting, I was just taking drugs, I was just going crazy, and suddenly I bump into Don Walker and the boys from Cold Chisel, you know, and when that started going crazy, then you know, I was lucky enough to meet Jane, you know, so I'm just, you know, I have had great people in my life the whole time, and I've got stories to talk about, you know, to tell them about this, and if people can connect with them, then it's a really nice thing.
I think people love your honesty too. I mean, don't we? All you Facebook people.
Well,
Seriously.
there's some things you can't talk about because people wouldn't understand, and you know, and I even sitting writing the book, you know, as I'm writing it, I'm trying to make sense of a lot of the stuff. I don't sit and plan writing. I don't sit there and go, okay, I'm going to write about this. I just sit and it pours out, and I write what I want to write and what I feel at the time. But there's some things that are just sort of that haven't made any sense to me yet, and I'm still trying to work out. So you know, I'll save that. I don't know. I'll save it for my solo book.
Well, man, I love the fact you know you could you know hang up the leather.
I've got a leather pants. I hung them up. They're hanging up.
Yeah, you have hung up the leather. pants.
No, I don't. They're lying in the corner.
No,
Actually,
but I mean you could
taking
be,
on a life of their own.
Let's not think about the leather. But I mean, you could be doing what you know anything you like and traveling the world and going on holiday. But I love your passion and you're a true artist. You
Because I'm doing what I like. I'm doing what I like. I'm doing what I love. I have great friends. I have unbelievable family, and I get to make music every night of the week and you know and share stories with people. What more could you bloody ask for? You know, it's a blessed life. You know?
It's a kind of a cool time in Australian music too, at the risk of speaking about other artists. I mean, you know, Daryl Braithwaite's getting inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame, which is wonderful. Farnham and he is selling out shows all over the place.
Great singer.
And in excess, about to have a big week, you know, milestones for them.
You know, it's a bit, you know, listen, I talk about this in the book with Michael, with Hutch, you know. I remember recording with In Excess, you know, for Good Times for the Australian Made Tour. And at that point, you know, I'd spent a lot of time in America, and you know, I remember I was just starting to really sort of take way too much cocaine and drink way too much. And I remember being in the studio with those guys and thinking to myself that I was standing on the edge of a great hole, you know, and I was about to fall in it. And I look back now, and I wonder whether, you know, Michael was standing on the same precipice, you know,
well,
you know, blokes didn't talk about it, you know. So I've had a lot of great friends out there, and we've lost a lot of really good friends out there too, due to the fact that men haven't really sort of found a way to talk. And you know, one of the things I hope happens, I've mentioned it before about this book, one of the things I hope that starts is that blokes start to talk a bit, because there's, you know, there's too many men, young men and old men suiciding, you know, in this country and in New Zealand too. So we've really got to start communicating, otherwise we're going to all lose friends.
Right. And you mentioned Lifeline in the prologue to the book too, or the preface of the prologue. Come on.
You know, the last book I was talking a lot about the domestic violence. This time I'm talking a lot about suicide, but they're all connected. You know, the domestic violence and the strife that we felt as kids, we carried on into our adult lives, and people are suffering. The same guys who are responsible for domestic violence are killing themselves because they're not coping with life, and so we've got to start talking. We've got to reach out to each other.
We've got a lot of questions here, but I think we're out of time, aren't we?
Two questions.
2 questions. Okay. If you need Jim's number, if you want to call him,
it's 555-555-555. How many fives is that?
Let's get a couple of these. What's your motto in life? There you go. Victor, that's your question, dude.
You know what? Every night before we go on stage, I tell the band, hit them hard, hit them low. If they get up, hit them again.
Okay.
That's only part of the motto.
Oliver posted a video of him asking, "What's your favorite animal?"
Oh, my dogs, Oliver and Snoop, the two that wagged their tails, but they weren't sort of strange members of the family. They were my dogs. They're like my kids. So I love dogs.
Okay. Darren asks, "Is there a song you would like to do a sequel to?" I don't understand that question.
I did want to write a follow-up, part 2. Evie. Evie parts 4, 5, and 6.
EV part 2 plus 2. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
No, look, you
We're out, are we?
Yes.
We're gone. Okay. Bye. So, do we say goodbye or they're already gone? Bye.
Hey, bye.
Bye-bye, Facebook people.
Thanks for tuning in.
I think that went very well.
So far, so good. Are we on yet?
What about a round of applause for the band and all the people working hard,
Oh, the pressure.
and James Barnes, ladies and gentlemen.
Drinks are on me.